Wickersham wrote a very long article today, and this is the part regarding the Bears and Bill Belichick. So they would Zoom. He Zooms with...
This was an interesting point. I never would have realized that whole crew from New England.
Yeah, he would Zoom with Josh, all the guys who are out of football, like Josh McDaniels, is Joe
Mike
Judge out of
Lombardi.
there, Mike Lombardi, Joe Judge.
Matt Patricia.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'd be including Matt Patricia on my Zoom.
I really think that's where people lost a lot of confidence in Belichick was when you lose Brady. Not only do you lose Brady, but then your answer at OC after Josh McDaniels takes the Raiders job was Patricia and Judge.
Yeah.
To like a special teams guy and a defensive guy. And I understand that a lot of defensive guys have helped on offense because they have like sort of codes on how to beat a good defense. But that's not who your coordinator should be, and it was such a fiasco, especially when they were trying to develop a quarterback.
Well, that's why, as much as I admire Belichick, I was always baffled by some of the decisions he made late in his career, especially when Brady was gone.
Yeah. So they would Zoom week in and week out. They go through every game, every NFL game, especially early in the season. And they would talk about all the trends and everything like that. And I heard Wickersham earlier that he's always a contrarian. If the league's doing it one way, he likes to go the other way. And then they started identifying teams that could have openings. And this was early in his column. It was like the third paragraph in, where he said, according to sources with direct knowledge, the group deemed that the Chicago Bears were probably the most attractive job, but the team brass was unlikely to consider Belichick. The group expects the same thing that most around the league do, that the Bears will go offense, hoping to give quarterback Caleb Williams a chance at a career, probably targeting Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Now, I asked yesterday, Yurko and Meller and Tyler, Belichick was free all year. Before he signed the UNC deal, why wouldn't you have a conversation with Bill Belichick? What couldn't hurt as a consultant?
You
whatever,
could have
like
paid him. You could have paid him to come in and talk.
Like
to you
I even joked about like this. Yeah, like the bar rescue show, the restaurant rescue show. Hey, Bill, spend the week here. Take a look at our operation. Take a look at what goes on here. What do we do well in your estimation? What don't we do well? And give us a report. We'll pay $1 million for it or whatever. And
it sounds like a great idea. I don't know that the people up at Hallis Hall have the stomach to be told the truth.
Do they want to win? Do they have the stomach to win? Do they have the stomach? Like, are they? This is what my point. I just can't fathom that the Bears scoff. I understand it because this is why they perpetually lose. But how could the Bears, and he's not perfect, and he's older, but how could the Bears, who can't hire the right guys, who never have winning seasons, who haven't won but one Super Bowl in the entire Super Bowl era, scoff at the idea to even pick up the phone and have a conversation with one of, if not the greatest NFL head coach of all time?
Well, that is also now you brought in someone like Kevin Warren so that George doesn't even have to do it anymore. Now you've got someone like Kevin Warren can make that call and have him come in and do it. I mean, it would cost you nothing but a small piece of change considering what the team's worth.
Yeah, hey, this is Kevin Warren. Bill, do you mind flying in? We'd love to have a meeting.
That's what the president of the organization should be doing, things like that.
Or hey, you don't have to come in. We'll come to you. We want to just talk. We want to hear you out. What are your ideas? And you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a formal interview. But again, it's like goes back to the Harbaugh stuff that they weren't even interested. Would Harbaugh have just gone to the Chargers? Did he have that in his mind since last September? Maybe. They didn't have it in their mind that Jim Harbaugh could be a solution. But for the Chicago Bears, who have hired Mark Trestman, who paired John Fox with Ryan Pace when Ryan Pace didn't want John Fox, who decided on Matt Eberflus, to scoff at the idea to even have a conversation Just a conversation with Bill Belichick, who deemed this a really good opportunity, the best, the most desirable one out there. Like, I laugh at that.
Even if the Bears had no interest in bringing Bill Belichick in because they think, because of all the stories around him that he, would dominate Hallis Hall if he was there because he's got the chops, right? And like you'd have to defer to him. Nevertheless, even if you have no interest in doing so, shouldn't there have been a phone call made the day of the press conference after they announced to the media, we're not, Matt Eberflus, after they had that 21-minute fiasco, should they have not at least called him so that you could pick his brain, to your point, Silvy, and oh, by the way, he has a 400-page binder to tell you that he wants to show off how he should properly run a program. Chances are he would have brought that with you. You could have taken a peek at it at the very least. You don't have to agree with everything, but it's, the playbook on how he's had so much success in his career.
A 400-page binder.
Didn't you hear? No, yeah. He has a 400-page manifesto that he's instituting at UNC.
Did he print it out, or was that on a computer? It's got it. He could not have printed it out. No way.
He Xeroxed it.
But nevertheless, right? Like you don't know that. But if you make the phone call,
of course,
you
Jeff,
find out. And here's the other thing.
The obvious answer to your question is yes.
But here's the other thing. Silvy, to his point, if Mike Vrabel is one of your top candidates, who could speak to Mike Vrabel more than Bill Belichick?
Or about Mike Vrabel, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Coached against him. He coached him as a player. He coached against him. He eliminated him one of the years. Like, I don't understand why there would be no And who knows? Once you interview someone, your mind could change. I always give the example of Ozzie Guillen. Ozzie Guillen was never on Kenny Williams' radar. Jerry said, to Jerry's credit back in the day, not anymore, now he doesn't interview GM candidates, and this is what happens. He said, hey, do me a favor, interview Ozzie back in 03 or whenever it was. I think his first year was 04. Can you just give Ozzie an interview? And then all of a sudden, Kenny was wowed. He's like, okay. And then they hired him. Maybe sit down with him, and maybe you have no desire to interview him or give him a formal interview at first or to hire him. Maybe you get two good ideas from him. And you used Ernie Accorsi, who was long out of the NFL when you used him as a consultant. Bill Polian, long out of the NFL when you used him as a consultant. Have a meeting with Bill Belichick, who's 1 year removed, and just pick his brain. What works? What doesn't work? What do we do well? What don't we do well? Bill, what do you think of us? There are so many things that you could. Seth Wickersham, who is a journalist, knew that whole crew who won 6 titles viewed the Bears as one of the better opportunities. So when people spin it on Twitter and they're like, hey, look, Bill Belichick thinks we've got one of the best landing spots. That's all well and good, and a lot of Bears fans are using this to drink the Kool-Aid and say, see, we're going to get one of the best ones. I don't doubt that the Bears do have a lot of the good spots. They could have had Bruce Arians when Bruce Arians was ready to take the Arizona job, and he won a lot of games in Arizona, and after that he won his Super Bowl with Tom Brady in Tampa and was a good head coach. But they chose Mark Trestman. They had Dan Quinn in the building, who went to a Super Bowl. But they chose Matt Eberflus. They do have the right guys a lot of the times in the building, but they screw it up with bad practices and bad, and I don't mean like a practice to get ready for a game, but their habits.
No, because we're told those practices are
always good, yeah. But they're the way they do the process is always wrong. And here, before the hiring process gets out, you could talk to not many guys, but there is one guy who's available to talk to. Oh, he happens to be the greatest coach of all time. And if you don't think he's the greatest coach of all time, he's one of 5 great coaches of all time. And he wants a gig. You could talk to him, and he finds you to be very attractive. You don't want to have a conversation with him?
Shame on you. Shame on them from a number of fronts. Now he's going to lead the Tar Heels.
Yeah, and I happen to think he'll do well.
Yeah. I think he'll do fine.
I think they're going to run it like a pro program, and he'll have guys around him who knows what they're doing, and they have $20 million to spend.
He'll give you a schematic advantage, at least defensively, every time you line up. That's for sure. Will he have the players to beat the top teams initially? I don't know.
I think the portal will help him, and the $20 million for that will help because it's run more like a salary cap league now. He doesn't have to go up in a tree. He doesn't have to,
That would be awesome, though, if Bill Belichick was up in a tree. I would love that.
And players are coming to him, too. Like, the number one quarterback in 2026 has already said, like, he's excited to go visit North Carolina because of Belichick.
Yeah.
2026?
Look what Deion did with Colorado. They've turned the program around. You land the right 4 or 5, maybe 6 guys in NIL or in the portal through NIL, all of a sudden you've got a good competitive team.
Sure. I know Jim Harbaugh started in college, and he was at San Diego, and then he went to Stanford, but he was a pro guy, then he went to college and did really well again.
Look, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Bill Belichick. West Virginia's tying themselves to Rich Rod again. Like, who would you rather be, UNC or West Virginia?
Right.
I'd rather be the Tar Heels.
And with all those alums now who are excited, who are willing to pay up to that NIL pot, Marcus in Woodstock, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Marcus?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for taking the call.
You got it.
So this question is directed a little bit towards Waddle, but obviously, Silvy, I think that you could jump in on this as well because you've covered the Bears for many, many, many years. Have you ever seen or been a part of a Bears team
Yes.
that has given up on the season? Because I hear like, oh, they mailed it in for San Francisco. I hear these comments, and I just find it hard to believe that guys that practice as hard as they practice, work on their craft as hard as they work on, that they would just mail it in because they know that they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
I would say if you're going to evaluate whether a guy's mailing it in or not, just put the tape on. Tape won't lie to you. So I've been on teams. I wouldn't say, Marcus, necessarily teams that mailed it in, but certainly teams that, with weeks to go, we had no chance of getting to the postseason. And at that point, it's a character test. Are you going to go out there and play at the same level, regardless of the fact that you don't have an opportunity to play in the postseason? My guess is if you go out there and you don't play your best, you're up for evaluation. I would think, regardless of your status on this team, everyone's being evaluated, especially if you get a new coach come in. What if a new coach comes in and says, hey, look, I'm just saying, for example, I know you paid this player $26 million a year for the next 4 years, but you know what? He doesn't fit what we're trying to do. We may want to move him. So I would say, like, when you're in an ever-changing environment, even if you are an accomplished veteran with a contract, I would suggest everyone's still being evaluated. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you, guys.